resume recording so you guys can get that. Okay. I'm just going to make sure that that's recording. Okay, cool. All right. So as we head into the new year, I want to make sure that we are picking up momentum. And that one thing that I've seen is that working one-on-one in small groups or speaking from stages to a lot of amazing female leaders and emerging leaders is that sometimes we're not having the impact that we want and deserve. Sometimes we're not speaking up. So I want to help you guys get crystal clear on what do you want the next year and actually the next decade. It's the starting of a new decade, which can be a little daunting, but also exciting. Start bringing that vision to life because clarity is where everything starts. And so I'm really excited that you are here today. Welcome. And I'm going to get started. And this is going to be interactive. So it's not just going to be me teaching. So stay with me to the end because I need to get some input from you. I'm going to try and make this custom for you. But also I'm offering some things at the end that there's no cost for. There's no selling or funny stuff on this webinar. I'm just going to be offering something at the end. So I really hope that you're going to stick around so you can get that. So let's make sure I can work the technology here. This is me. I'm not going to talk about myself too much for about 30 seconds, just so you have a little context. My background is in applied sports psychology. I spent 20 years working with world-class athletes, and more recently in the last, I would say 6 to 7 years, has specialized in mental toughness for women in the workplace. This whole thing started simply because when I was about 9, I was told I wasn't good enough to be in this small exclusive private school I was at in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I had this intense curiosity about who gets to decide who's good enough. And what about world-class athletes? What about Olympians? Who gets to decide who's good enough? So whether you are, and I used to say you're probably not a CEO or aspiring, Olympian, but I don't say that anymore because I've had CEOs and Olympians on these webinars. So I don't say that anymore, but what I say is we all have our own individual Olympics. And so my black belt and my area of expertise is really helping people to gain clarity on what they want and deserve and really helping them to unlock what's already there. So all this other stuff is, I guess, interesting, but I just want to make sure that you understand that I'm in the business of helping people unlock what is already there to reach their next level of ambition and joy in their career, but also in their wellness and personal relationships as well. So you're probably wondering, why is there a blank screen that says transition? Well, I'll tell you, world-class performers, they do not run from one thing to the other. There's always transitions. They're very methodical, very intentional. And so I want to honor you for taking the time to spend a little bit of time with me, but I also want to transition because we're going to shift from whatever you were doing. So whether you were at home or at work or whatever you're doing, we're going to shift into some new content. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, if your legs are crossed like mine are, I would like you to uncross your legs and just take one breath. We're going to inhale. If you take yoga, it's a deep belly breath. Inhale, exhale. And I want you to try it one more time with your eyes closed. No, well, don't worry, I cannot see you. No one can see you. If you think you look weird, we're all going to look weird together. But as you inhale and you exhale, I want you to feel your feet sinking into the ground. And the reason why I'm having you do this is that you can do these little micro things, transitions throughout your day, whether you're transitioning into an important meeting, whether you're transitioning from work to home or anything else, or if your kids are really freaked out about something that's happening or very anxious, because I have a 19-year-old daughter, anxiety is a thing. And this is something that they can do. So you just always want to transition. It's a good tool to have in your tool belt when you're going into a high pressure situation, or when your head, your mind, and your thoughts are getting a little bit away from you. It's a way of getting grounded. So just inhale in and exhale, and you feel your feet sinking into the ground. Okay? All right, so this hour is going to be fast and furious out of respect for your time. This is going to be actionable content. My background is applied sports psychology. That means applied. I'm not a researcher. I lean on a lot of amazing researchers, and I want to make sure that you're going to get tools that you can apply into your life. I'm going to cover a lot. I talk really fast because I want to be respectful of your time, and I want to give you a lot. So hold on to your seats. I hope you have something to write with. please do post questions if you have them. I talk about this all day long, whether I'm coaching one-on-one or speaking from, opening a conference or doing a workshop in a company. So it's the second language for me, and it might not be for you. So please do flag me down and ask questions. So if you're wondering, gosh, why am I taking an hour out of my busy day? Then I just want to reiterate the purpose and the goal that I have for the next 55 minutes that we have together. It's really to gain the next level of clarity. So as I write in my book, clarity is not static. It's not like one day you have perfect clarity and then you're good to go for the rest of your life, right? It's kind of a moving thing. So we're going to look at you where you are at today. So whether you're looking to pivot inside your whether you're looking to have a next level of impact in your company or looking to pivot out, or whatever the case may be, we're going to examine and give you some tools to get clear today on what matters most to you today moving forward into the end of the year and into the new year. And then also how to gain the confidence to make consistent progress. Whenever we move towards that next level of ambition or joy, we need to build the confidence to persevere even when it gets difficult. And I will tell you, I wish I could tell you that I have a magic wand and can make this simple for you, but I honor you being an ambitious female leader or emerging leader, whether you're leading your family and your company. But every time we push that comfort zone, it takes some confidence. And I want to let you know that it's a learned skill. Okay, so stay with me for that. And then also to how to build influence. We need to have internal influence, meaning influence over ourselves, so we understand, so we can influence ourselves to push beyond that comfort zone and to have that next level of impact. But also we need to understand the science of external influence. In other words, how to get other people on board, whether it's your family or your colleagues. And so it's to gain the next level of clarity, confidence, and influence for your next level of impact in your current role, or if you're looking to pivot out. And I really want to reiterate all of the things that you're going to be learning. I want you to keep an ear open because they can be applied to other areas of your life as well, although we're going to focus on career. Does that make sense? Everybody with me? Can I see some hands? Yes? Okay. Okay, good. Okay, awesome. Now let's just talk a little bit about what happens if you don't do these things, if you don't have the clarity and the confidence and influence. Sometimes we feel mediocre even though we're working extremely hard. Has anyone ever felt that way? I mean, I go there. Am I the only one? Okay, maybe I am the only one. No, it looks like, okay, guys, I'm seeing the hands. Okay, thank you so much. Because sometimes we're working hard at home. We want to make sure we're there for our families. We want to make sure that we're contributing at work. But sometimes we kind of feel how I don't look as young as this woman, but sometimes I feel like her. In other words, just working so hard, but then feeling like we're coming up short, and we don't want that to happen. And then sometimes we feel like there's more. In other words, we might feel like we're doing all the things, and maybe we have the money, or we have the status, or we feel like we're doing all the things, but we feel like there's more. It's that uncomfortable feeling that we should be contributing more, and either in our current role, or maybe it's time to pivot out. So that's what the importance of clarity, because this is my philosophy, guys, and you're either going to be with me or you're going to think that I'm absolutely crazy. So you're going to be on one end of the fence or the other, but I'm going to throw my philosophy out there. And that is that I feel that we all have something very special placed within us. And I think that when we're feeling uncomfortable, like there's more, like we're not quite in the right place, or we're not quite having the impact that we want and deserve, or it's time for a change, or it's time to speak up in our current role and have more impact, it's that the universe is kind of giving us a kick in the butt. And so I really want to invite you to pay attention to that. We're not going to talk about meditation and mindfulness and how to have that kind of practice. That is a conversation for another day if you want to discuss with me privately what I do. But I really invite you to be still, whether you're meditating, going for walks, or what have you, just to be still and really surrender to what's right for you if you're having that uncomfortable feeling. And that doesn't happen in the chaos of day to day when we're in the middle of our job, we're in the middle of our family, in the middle of like all the things that we need to do. So I want to invite you to do that. That's beyond the scope of this webinar, but I just want you to jot that down and just put quiet time, like still time. Like usually it's outside, just a hint. Or you can have a nice place in your home if you just want to wake up early and be still. But that is so you can start to listen to that uncomfortable feeling, that feeling like maybe there's more, okay? Now, what happens when we feel like this? When we're feeling a little off, when we're feeling like there's more or like that, or that uncomfortable feeling, sometimes what happens is our impact declines. And it's contrary to what we want, right? We want to have more impact. We want to feel alive, like we're contributing. But when we lack clarity, then I always say that lack of clarity is the death of productivity, okay? So it's really important to pay attention to this and to get clear, because when we're not clear and we don't have the confidence, we don't have the influence, we're not on that trajectory towards our next level of impact and joy, we tend to go the other way, and we don't want that to happen. All right, so this picture is funny. This girl's really cute. I put on there partially because she's cute. But also, it's an important point to make that sometimes we lose our capes. So for those of you that have kids, you know, and they're really little, you know, when kids, does anyone have a kid that ever says that I'm going to save the world? Or, you know, my son Dan used to fly around, he's 23 now, but he used to fly around the playground and say that he is going to save the world and he's going to protect the playground and he's a superhero. And he believed it. He wasn't pretending. And so we all think we know how to dream big when we're younger. And we still know how to dream big, but sometimes we lose our capes. And so with me, it happened when I was 9. I had the principal of like my small exclusive private school. Her name was Mrs. Harris. No hard feelings. I still remember her name though. But she said flat out that I was not a good enough student to remain in that school. And that was despite me working hard, despite me getting the grades and doing all the things. And that affected me for a long time. And so sometimes we lose our capes. And the good news is there's a way that we can put them back on. Because I want you to be able to tap into what's in your heart and what's in your mind to where that next level is for you. So we can kind of put those capes back on and start learning how to dream big, and also how to lock into that possibility, get clear on what that is, and then make actionable progress. So, and the awesome thing is, I told you I'm not a researcher, so I lean on a lot of amazing researchers out there. And the science says that you can achieve beyond the standard means. So whether it's Carol Dweck's mindset, who talks about a growth versus a fixed mindset. So in other words, if you think that you can get better, you basically can. If you have a fixed mindset and define yourself by where you are past failures, then it's really up to you. So these books, at least the first 4, are incredible, and they really prove that what I'm going to share with you is possible. The last book is my book. It's based on researchers before me, but it's the foundation. So once you learn about the research, my book is more about the action steps that you need to make clear and measurable progress, and also how to build the confidence that you're going to need, and how to build the mindset and mental toughness that you're going to need to make clear and consistent progress. All right. So we're going to just take one more breath, okay? Because I've just given you a little bit of an introduction to who I am, kind of what I'm about, what I believe in, and now we're going to get into some fast and furious teaching. So if you don't have your notebook and pencil, or pen, make sure you get it now. We're going to take one breath. Now, if you didn't do it, go ahead and do it right now. One breath in. And I want you to exhale and feel your feet sinking into the ground. Okay, awesome. I want to also invite you to do this, not to do that, but I want you to invite you to do that breathing exercise before you get to work and then before you walk into your home. Okay, to start getting more intentional about what is most important the first thing that I do now at work. How am I going to show up in my job today? And then also when you get home, before you get home, do a transition. Just as a football player touches the top of the tunnel, you know, like make somewhere that you're going to touch before you go into home. Take a deep breath, get centered. Even if you've had like a really not a great day, you want to get centered and focused and intentional about how do you want to greet the people that mean the most to you and show up as that person. And then maybe you can talk about your day and what went sideways a little bit later, but just start getting really intentional. These transitions are really, really important so we can show up as our best selves and really be congruent with who we are. All right. So this picture, what I'm asking is it your time? You know, we're talking a little bit about next level of impact and joy in your current career, or maybe it's time for a pivot. And so what I want to know is it your time? And if it is, then you need to decide. And the word decide, actually decide, it actually means phonetically death of any other option. So as you are deciding if it's time to pivot, or deciding that you want to have more of a voice in your current role, or deciding that you really want to have a raise or promotion, I want you to ask yourself, is it my time? And so your job is going to be deciding and getting clear between now and the end of the year. And what we're going to do is start to build that plan. Okay, so we're going to get clarity and start to build that plan. But first you need to know, ask yourself, is it my time? And you get to decide. You know, when I was young and I was in that, you know, my principal told me I wasn't good enough to be in that school, I did not have the confidence or the influence to speak up, to have a voice, to decide. I was doing everything that I could. So I'm really on a mission. My purpose is to help you get clear and to understand and to decide that you are good enough. You're enough. You know, people that are Olympians, people that first took a plane into the air, or whatever, you know, look at Richard Branson. I don't know. Think of all these people that have done crazy things. They're people, and they just decided what they wanted to do. So I'm not encouraging you to do anything huge or lofty or whatever, but understand and ask yourself, is it your time? And what is that next level for you? Okay. You guys following me? Okay. I know I can be like a little tense. I'm going to push because I know it's important. Okay. Thank you so much for raising your hand. I take your dreams very seriously. I'm in the business. I've seen the transformation in people, either one-on-one in small groups, or this past May, I opened the Women of Silicon Valley conference, which is crazy. I just started speaking like a year ago, right? I've seen the transformation in myself. I've seen it in my kids. I've seen it in my one-on-one clients. I know what you're capable of, and I believe in you wholeheartedly. So hopefully I'm going to give you a couple tools today to unlock some of that. All right, so the first, and I'm hoping the picture is coming through on this, but we'll see. The first secret, I'm gonna call it a secret because I can, is to dream and set up your team. So we're not talking about SMART goals now, getting clear on what is your next actionable step. I mean, in my opinion, SMART goals are stupid. You know, when someone is 15 and they wanna win a gold medal in the Olympics, okay, that's not a SMART goal. If, you know, if I look at all of these amazing things, I work with a lot of women in technology. I coach them and I think about what they were dreaming about when they were younger. It's not, they're not SMART goals. Okay. I'm talking about a dream, something that if you told your good friend or told your partner or someone, they would think you're a little crazy, like a little crazy. They'd be like, okay. So something like dream big, but you also need to set up a team, meaning that you need to have an internal and external ally, because these dreams don't happen. No one does these things in solitude. No one pushes through their comfort zone. No one achieves the next level of ambition or joy or something really out there, like a little crazy, without having someone who fiercely believes in them. And if you're in a company, you should have an internal ally and an external ally. Someone that's going to be on the inside pushing for you and fiercely standing up for you, but also someone on the outside that will, you can be totally transparent with, if you get me, right? That can be a coach, someone like me, and it can also be someone else who can fill that role. All right. So I love this quote: when you have decided what you believe, what you feel must be done, have the courage to stand alone and be counted. Oh, good. The picture came up. Awesome. So that's Eleanor Roosevelt. Boy, she was one tough cookie and did so many amazing things. But I really believe that once you lock in to that next level of ambition and joy for you, then you put a stake in the ground and then you demand to be listened to. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to do that. Okay, so I don't know why it's coming in steps, but we'll go with it. There's going to be more things popping on this worksheet. I'm not sure why it's coming on in stages. It's a little too high tech for me, but we'll roll with it. So like I said, this is going to be about doing. So I'm hoping that you're finding this interesting, but even more so than finding it interesting, I want you to apply it to your life. Okay, I want when you get off this 1 hour webinar, I want you to be a little bit different. Have made, like, I want the train to plow the station. Okay, so clarity is where everything starts. Like I mentioned, lack of clarity is kind of the death of productivity. When things are vague and we really don't know what we're doing during the day, or we don't really know kind of what our end game is or what have you, we tend to kind of slow down and in worst case scenario come to a halt. And so let me give you an example. There's a woman that I'm working with, and her name is Dawn, and she has worked in corporate for almost 30 years. And she has this uncomfortable feeling that I'm talking about. She is being pulled, like she feels like she's being pulled to do more, pulled outside. And so, but she was a little unclear on what it looked like. And so if you're unclear or in this spot, the first thing that we do is we need to define your best self. Not clarity on, well, what are you going to do and where are you going? It's clarity on how do you define your best self, because then you can figure out if you are being congruent with your best self and if it's time for a move or to pivot or to speak up or what have you. Okay, so what I want you to do is to write down the 3 words that define your best self. Okay, so these do not have to be words that you, and if you're just joining, no problem, hop right in. You missed all that fascinating stuff that I was talking about myself, and you're gonna jump in right to the meat of it, okay? So what I want you to do is write down 3 words that define your best self. You do not have to be perfectly living into these 3 words by any means. They could be 3 words that you aspire to. So in other words, my 3 words are clear, calm, and discipline. I am by no means perfect at those 3 words, but they are my guiding light, my North Star, and I really try and live into those words, whether it's in my work or with my family and also with my wellness. So I'm clear about my workouts, I'm clear about how I treat my family, and I'm clear about what I am doing in my work and in my career. And also same thing about my wellness. So think about and just take a second to write down the 3 words that define your best self. And I'm going to keep rolling through this worksheet. So if I'm going too fast for you, do not worry. You can go back and fill it out. And also you'll get the recording. And if something doesn't make sense or you need some help going through it, but I just want to make sure to get through everything. So, and then I want you to put, what is your one thing? You know, it could be maybe you've gained weight and you feel like you look fat. You know, I don't know. It's happened to me. I mean, most of us are women, right? We can just talk like that to each other. Maybe in your career, you've just been feeling kind of silenced or not heard, or like your voice doesn't matter. And maybe your one thing is to speak up. You know, that happened. I was working with a senior HR director, and she always went last in the meetings with the CEO and his staff. And half the time she wouldn't even get to speak. And when she did get to speak, I don't think anyone listened to her. And the CEO, she talked to him, and you know what he said? He said, well, you're not directly responsible for revenue generation. So I don't know, you're just going to go last, and sometimes you just won't go. Okay. And her one thing was to go third in that meeting because she was the voice of the people. So we crafted a conversation, and we'll tell you kind of down the line how we did that, to show and have influence and have the confidence to have that conversation with him. So he understood that, yes, she was directly responsible for revenue generation. And yes, her voice did need to be heard. So her one thing was to go third in the weekly meetings with the CEO and his staff. So I want to know what your one thing is, your 3 words, your one thing. And then also, why is it worth fighting for? So in the case of my client, who is a senior HR director, her name is actually Lottie. And it's worth fighting for her because she feels that she believes that she's the voice of the people. And if she does not have a voice in the weekly meetings with the CEO and his staff, then the people have not been heard. So she takes that very seriously. So when she gets silenced, it makes her feel like all the other people in the company don't matter. And that really impacts her. So I'm just giving you some context of, because your why is what's going to drive you. I'm sure you heard Simon Sinek, talk about start with why and all those, but there is a science to it, because a lot of times what we want to do, it's hard when it comes to Lottie talking to the CEO again, and having that conversation and really fighting for herself and her people to go third in that meeting. She needs to know why she's doing it, because otherwise she's not going to build the courage to do it. So really lock into your why. Again, this applies to your family as well. If you're trying to counsel some either colleagues or your kids or anyone through this, ask them, they need to lock into their why. That's a big part of building courage to push beyond the comfort zone. And then also, now we're going to get specific. The coach in me is coming out. We're not just going to be conceptual. I want to know how you're going to commit to progress. So let me give you an example. When I was working with Lottie, I'm like, okay, we figure out kind of what you're going to do. How are you going to commit to that? When are you going to have the conversation with the CEO? Let's get it on the calendar. So then she was like, oh, dang. I know I wanted it. I kind of wanted it. Okay. And then that was like, it was hard. But I'm like, not just get it on the calendar, but it needs to be it needs to be written down. It needs to be in red. You need to raise the necessity. So for her, she said, okay, the meetings are on Monday. So I think we were meeting on a Tuesday or Wednesday. She's like, I'm going to call this meeting. I'm going to talk to him, try and get on his calendar Friday before noon. And I had her tell her husband. A lot of times when we socialize things too, that kind of puts us on the spot. So if you've been wanting to get in shape and you don't want to, wait till New Year, start telling people what your goal is going to be. Like, throw it out there. But the point here is how you're going to commit. It needs to be very specific, and you need to take control of it. So we had no control of the outcome for Lottie. We did not know how the CEO was going to respond. But she did have control over her action, her most important action. And so that was going to be to craft the conversation and to rehab the conversation. And so we booked on the calendar the time that she and I would meet to prepare. And then she booked in the meeting that she would have with the CEO. Okay. If it comes to your, health and wellness, then how are you going to commit if you want to get into shape? If you've been saying you've been going to the gym and you've had a membership for a year and you're not going, then sometimes common knowledge isn't common practice. So fork out the money for a trainer, or do it, but block it in the calendar, get a buddy, socialize it, tell someone, and then commit to the day and the time that you're going to go or have the conversation or what have you. So are you guys following me? How to commit to progress. It's a lot different. Okay, thanks it looks like everybody is on board. Yay, you guys are listening. That's awesome. So yes, committing is important. And then I also say one person. I will reiterate over and over that our next level of ambition and joy, it just does not happen in solitude. So I want you to think of one person. So who could that person be? It could be a mentor, an ally inside your company. It could be, a coach, someone like me. This is what I do for a living. I am the one person for a lot of people. you know, or it could be someone else, that you have to pick someone. You're not going to go after it alone. So if you want to get fit, then get someone to get fit with, you know, hire a trainer, get a friend who's reliable, what have you. If you are want to speak up and be heard more in your current position, then get an internal ally, okay, or hire a coach. You know, same with that. So figure out who your one person is. And at the end of this call, if you want to have a conversation with me at any time about anything I'm covering, you can do that. That's what I'm going to be giving away at the end of this call. So if you need help with any of this, please do let me know. All right, so everyone likes to put pictures of their kids. I want to give you some context. So there was a question that came in earlier that said, how can we apply this to our kids? And I have to say, the first and foremost, I want to see you be successful and happy, but your kids, they want to see you successful, but they really want to see you happy. And they're also watching you. So this is my son, Ryan. He's the really short one down on here. He's 22 now. He's about 130 pounds soaking wet. And at 11, he had a dream to be on the Cal tennis team. And everyone said, there's no way, you know, go to a Division III school where you're going to play. You know, he would get beaten in national tournaments, what have you. But he took to heart all of these things that I'm sharing with you. And he has been privy to my struggles, my failures, and there have been plenty of them, believe me. And then he just was able to persevere. And he was able to do something that was statistically impossible because of his size and his national ranking where he was in the tennis ranking. And so this does rub off on your children. And he is not on the Cal tennis team. He's graduating from the Haas School of Business in May. You know, that people told him is impossible too. You know, and so learning these skills is really important for us, but it's also important for us to share with our kids. So without, you know, further ado, let's hop in. One more breath. All right, we're going to transition from clarity. So you're going to get the worksheet on clarity. Okay, but we have a lot to cover, so I'm going to roll through clarity. But just to recap, we covered you getting clear on your 3 words, your one thing, your why, and one person. So if you need to work through that later, awesome, do that. But for now, we're going to take a breath. Exhale. And we're going to transition into how to become confident and emotionally agile. Sometimes there is a misconception that other people are confident, that they just popped into the world that way. And that doesn't happen. Confidence is a muscle that can be built. And it's something that you can learn. It's something that you can learn, that your kids can learn, that your team at work can learn, they can learn. And it's also closely knitted with being emotionally agile. So we're going to talk about how to build confidence and how to be emotionally agile, especially in high pressure situations or situations that really matter, or when you're striving towards something that maybe is making you a little uncomfortable or scary, which isn't a bad thing. But I love this quote. I've learned over and over the years, I have learned over the years that when one's mind is made up, this diminishes fear. Knowing what must be done does away with fear. This is why we started with clarity and we're moving into confidence and emotional agility. Because what happens is once we're clear and we start taking those actionable steps, those things that we have control over. So in other words, I don't know if you guys can see this. It says, proceed as if success is inevitable. Once we get clear on what we want and deserve, whatever that next level of ambition or joy is, we just assume it's going to happen, right? So we just proceed as if success is inevitable, and then we have to relinquish that we don't have control and be at peace with it, right? We just proceed as if it's happened. Just like an Olympian, they've already won the gold medal. If you talk to an Olympian before they get to the Olympics, they've been there 1,000,000 times. Okay, so start thinking about what it is that you want and deserve, get clear on that. And then what's going to help you to be confident is taking consistent action on the things that you have control over. So let me put this in context, like with kids. And if you can't relate to this, it'll just make it very simple. So maybe you'll be able to understand it better. A kid might freak out about a test. Like, I need to get an A, or if I get a bad grade, and then, they're, worried about all that. But if you can say, okay, let's just assume you're going to get whatever grade you want. Okay, so we're going to proceed as if you've gotten an A or whatever. And then you can ask them, what do you have control over for the coming days before the test that you can do, that you have total control over? And if you're going to get an A, how would that person study? What would that person do today? Would that person be on their phone? Would that person be watching TV? Would that person be hanging out with their friends before studying? So that is applicable to kids, but it's also applicable to us. So getting clear on the thing that we do want, and then assuming it's going to happen, and then getting back to the actionable steps of what it's going to take. So let's go back to the example of Lottie. When Lottie had to have the conversation with the CEO because she wanted to get bumped up to third, in the speaking order of the meeting with the CEO and his staff. She's like, I don't know what he's going to say. I'm like, what do you want him to say? She's like, well, I want him to say that it's okay for me to go third and that he understands the importance of it. I'm like, awesome. Let's assume that that's going to happen. And then we stepped back and constructed the conversation. That was the first thing. Then the second thing, what she had to do is practice it. Doing an ABC prep. In other words, thinking of, okay, we're going to practice now on what happens if he says, awesome, let's go, you can go third. What happens if he's on the fence, and what happens if he flat out says no? So those are things that she has control over. When she assumes, she just assumes she's going to go third and he's going to say great. Okay, she's going to get what she wants and deserves so she can be the voice of the people. Okay, so is that making sense with people? Can you show me some hands? Okay, awesome. Okay, awesome. So the gist of it is, when things are far out into the future, you want to relinquish control and assume that the best is going to happen. Proceed as if success is possible, right? But when it comes to the current day-to-day, you want to make sure that you take control over the process. Take control over the process, relinquish the outcome, and assume that you'll get the desired result. All right? Okay, cool. We're going to run through another worksheet. And this one's going to be, I'm going to put it all out there all at once. I think when we put this together, we were trying to be fancy and roll it out gradually, but I'm just going to put it all out there for you guys. And again, if you cannot write everything down, think through it later when there's more time, because I want to make sure that I can run through all of this with you. Okay, so don't worry if you get a little left behind on the worksheet. The first thing is, write down the one thing that is most important to you right now. So example, for me, so I'll be totally transparent. Is that okay? Okay with you guys? I'll be totally transparent. So I had a couple back a few days ago, not a few days ago, a few weeks back. I had a group, my speaking engagement slowed down, and then also packed coaching calendar. Some people finished, right? So I want to get my coaching calendar totally full by the end of the year. So I start working with the people in January. That was just so the one thing that was most important to me now is to find the right people that I can serve in 2020. Okay, that was really, and why is it worth fighting for? Okay, it's worth fighting for because I'm on a mission to help 10,000 women to be mentally tough. So I help those women to be at one-on-one and speaking and in small groups. So I have these things that I need to do because I'm fighting. I'm really fighting for them, fighting for you, because I know what you're capable of and I want to help unlock it. And then one emotion, fear. Does anyone ever have fear? Again, am I the only one? Okay. Oh, okay. Awesome. More hands are coming up. Okay. All of the people either paying attention or honest raise their hands. No, I'm just kidding. But we all seem to have fear, because I can do webinars all day long and I can speak from stages all day long. There's no guarantee. I mean, I've had results in the past, but there's just no guarantee. So I have fear. What if, all the what ifs are the future, what ifs. So we all have fear. And then also, like, who, I always say, write down who and why. Like, who is this important for besides yourself? So I talked about when I coach people one-on-one, or when I speak from a stage or in a company, I step outside myself. When I go and when I coach and when I speak or train at a company, it's not for me. I'm not going there so I earn money. Money sustains the message, so I'm not shy about changing money, but that is not why I go. The who for me is whoever I'm speaking to, either one-on-one or at a company or from a stage. Okay, that's my who. And the why is because, at least for me, I'm working with women in the workplace. And right now, I think the world needs us to step up. I think the world needs to hear our voice now more than ever. I think women have a different level of conscious capitalism and a different perspective that must be heard. So that's what drives me. So I want you to think about you. So in other words, what is most important to you right now? Why is it worth fighting for? What is one emotion associated with it? And who or why? Who and why, not who or why. So in other words, who is this for besides yourself? And why do you care about them? Okay. All right. So we're going to move on. Are you guys have any questions? You're kind of quiet, all quiet out there. Don't be shy to drop some questions in the chat. Okay. You guys ready to move on? Okay. Oh, and here's another one. Oh my gosh, this slide's so tricky. Okay, on this sheet, and you'll get all the worksheets, I want to know how you're going to take bold action to becoming more confident. Okay, and that is, how are you going to take more bold action to doing the things that you have control over? It might be have a conversation, or if it's wellness, it might be go for a walk 15 minutes during lunch, or join. My daughter is obsessed right now with Orange Theory. I don't know. It might be that. But when it comes to your career, it might be align with someone. Okay. It might be call a meeting. It might be whatever. But think about, how are you going to take bold action? That's what I want you to fill in there. Now, I want to explain this briefly. This is the emotional wheel. There's similarities and differences between world-class performers and everyone else. Okay, we're all human, so we all have a whole range of emotions, good emotions, but also anger, fear, doubt, frustration, all of those emotions as well. But that's a similarity. But the difference is that world-class performers know how to stay what I call between 11 and 1 o'clock. So that means that they are highly aware of negative emotions. Past emotions, for example, okay, poor Lottie, we're going to use her as an example again. She might think, oh, I already spoke to the CEO and he said no. So that happened in the past. But in the what ifs or in the future, what if he says no again? What if I keep going last? What if I'm never heard? What if? So it's important to be aware of those and excuse me, to be very agile, because if we're not, then we start getting into the yellow zone. If we're not agile and come back to the green, the zone performance. And if we don't want to have a downward spiral, meaning get into the red, because have you ever seen a sports team implode and have a downward spiral? That means they get so emotional that they can't come back. And the more you get into the yellow or the red, the less likely you can come back. So let me give you an example for my daughter. My daughter got a bad grade on a quiz. And then she thought, well, if I get a bad grade on the quiz, I might get a bad grade in the class, which means I might not get into a good college, which means I'm going to be living in a box under the bridge. And so I don't know how we got into the box under the bridge from a bad grade on a quiz, but you get the idea. that can happen with us as well. So we want to be very emotionally agile and make sure that we stay in the green. And you might be wondering, well, how on earth do you do that? That can be learned too. And I'm going to show you all three of these. The only thing you need to remember is RRS. Recognize, release, strategize. If you're wondering why I've been running you through these transitions so much that maybe are annoying, maybe not, I'm not sure. But it is something that once you raise your level of awareness, you can also transition. In other words, you get to decide how you want to feel about something. You get to decide if you're going to get back into the green, into the zone. And this is how you do that. This is very helpful before going into any crucial conversations, presentations, if you're speaking from a stage, what have you. Whenever you need to confront some emotions, look them in the eyes and deal with them. Whenever you need to show up and deliver, okay? So recognize what emotions you're feeling. So in other words, maybe it's I'm really nervous or I'm really afraid. You just want to understand and recognize what you're feeling and know that it's okay. You're making peace with it rather than, I always say that you're making friends with it rather than punching in the face. Like, I'm really afraid to pivot out of my company and it's okay. I'm really afraid to talk to my senior manager, leader, CEO, and it's okay. Just, you're making peace with it. It takes some power away from it because emotions demand to be heard. Telling yourself, don't worry, it'll be fine, doesn't work. Okay, so recognize. Okay, then release. Again, take these deep belly breaths. You want to inhale and then exhale. So when you inhale, you can think of emotion coming towards you. And when you exhale, you can think of the emotion passing through you. So if you're worried about having a conversation, you think of that worry coming towards you. And then when you exhale, it actually passes through you. Now, if it's anger, fear, worry, doubt, frustration, any of those things, excuse me, I'm going to take it a step further. Those things are actually valuable. I know, sounds crazy, but stay with me. If you can inhale and bring them closer and exhale, they pass through you, you can actually think of them sitting next to you and what would you learn from them? So in other words, in Lottie's case, if she was afraid to talk to the CEO, that she was going to be shut down again, and she was worried. So she inhales, thinks of the worry coming towards her, thinks of it passing through her, and then thinks of it sitting next to her. And what she would, if you think about it, what would it whisper in her ear? What would it say to her so she could get her desired result from the meeting? And she told me, I'm like, if that worry were going to talk to you, what would you learn from it? If it were to say, Lottie, I know you're worried about having this conversation again. If you don't want it to go that way, you need to do this. You know, and in her case, she had to practice 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week. And then she had to speak slowly and speak in a confident tone. We taught her how to do that. Okay, so recognize, release by breathing. Then strategize. I kind of put the cart before the horse here. Strategizing are the things that you need to do that you have control over. So like I said, with Lottie, it was practicing 15 minutes a day after she formed that influential conversation, and also speaking slowly and articulately. Okay, so strategize. Again, if you're recognizing a theme here, in the current moment, it's very important to take control of the process, relinquish the outcome. You're going to hear me say that kind of over and over. These are just some tools on how to do it. All right. So we're going to keep moving because I want to be respectful of your time. This is internal and external influence, how to be heard. And I guess my grammar in that isn't perfect, but what I meant was how to be heard and take consistent action towards what you want and deserve. This is Rana El Kaloubi. I met her at TED Women 2015. She has a facial recognition. She's bringing the human aspects of AI, like emotions, to AI. It's crazy what she's been able to do. And it was like where she's come since 2015 to now. She was really ahead of her time. And now it's incredible. But when I'm talking about internal and external influence, if we want to get to that next level of impact and joy for ourselves, we must be able to have internal influence. We must acknowledge and validate whatever we're feeling, just like we talked about in how to build confidence and emotional agility. So if you're feeling a negative emotion, just be like, wow, I want this thing, but I'm afraid, and it's okay. So you need to acknowledge and validate that. You need to have internal influence for yourself, but then external influence. In other words, when you're having conversations with other people, you need to understand the science behind the psychology of influence and how to get other people to stand with you in unity, at a minimum to understand your point of view, but ideally to have them come on board with you. Okay, so am I making sense? We're going to take a couple minutes to talk about how to do this. Okay, awesome. Thanks for raising your hand. So another amazing quote: if it's a good idea, go ahead and do it. It's much easier to apologize if you get permission. Who loves this quote? Gosh, I wish that, I know that I've got to go to that Grace Hopper conference. I love this quote. So, but if you're going to do something and you go ahead and do it, you're not going to do it alone. So let's talk about the science of influence. All right. So this is well, first of all, you all have to put your hand on your heart. I can't see you, so I'm going to have some trust. Okay. And this is based on the science of influence. Okay. Very powerful. So I want you to put your hand on your heart and say, I will use this for good and not evil. So raise your hand and tell me that you've done that. I'm kind of kidding, but not really. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for raising your hands. Okay, cool. So the first thing is to acknowledge and validate. This is based on the science of influence. This is what professional negotiators use when they're keeping people safe and talking them off buildings. It's based on the psychology of influence, okay? It's a human drive that we must feel, acknowledged and validated. So we must do that for others before we earn the permission to role model the way or share a point of view, okay? So acknowledge and validate. Does not mean you need to agree with someone, okay? So let's take Lottie into consideration again. When she called the meeting with the CEO, she acknowledged and validated his point of view. This is going to require you to stand in someone else's shoes, okay? She didn't talk to him and say, I'm being disrespected and I'm not her, I'm the voice of the people, blah, blah. I mean, no, that doesn't work. Because if you jump to step 2 without doing step 1, it's like asking someone to marry you when you haven't had a first date, okay? It's creepy and weird and no one's going to say yes. I'm kind of joking, but not really. Acknowledge and validate. So what she said was, I totally understand why you think it's a good idea to put me last. And also, why you might think that I'm not directly related to revenue generation. I totally get it. You have to, if you're not listening to me right now, multitasking, please pay attention to this. Get your head straight before you have these conversations. Because if you go into a conversation thinking that, boy, that guy's a jerk or that woman's a jerk, even if you say all the right things right now, they're going to pick up on your tone. Okay? So there should be a step before step 1. And that is be curious and compassionate and not judgmental. Okay? She prepared her mind by thinking, I'm really curious why he thinks it's okay to put me last. I'm really curious why he doesn't see the value in me going. Okay? And it must be really difficult to be him and have so much pressure to, for revenue generation. Just come from if not for the other person, for yourself. Okay? So that's step pre-1. Okay? Step 1, acknowledge and validate. I understand why you feel that I should go last, why I'm not directly related for revenue generation. I totally get it. Why you might feel that way. Okay? And then she can role model the way. And this is always fact first, emotion second. Don't role model the way that say, I don't feel like I'm heard and you're devaluing me. That's fine to say later, but never first. Always a fact first. So she might say something like, based on the last few new hires and how, actually I was responsible for finding your chief revenue officer, and based on the report that I just did, this is how I am directly related to revenue generation. You want to say something, a fact that cannot be argued with, okay? That is not objective, okay? And then you want to challenge them. You want to challenge them with something that you have in common, okay? So in other words, what Lottie said was, she acknowledged and validated, she role modeled the way, showed him a fact of why she is directly related to revenue generation. And then she says, based on, the quarter that we have come up and the quarterly goals and the revenue generation goals that we all have, I'm sure you're going to understand why I need to go third, right? So you're asking and challenging and asking a question. Okay, and I have one question that I'm going to take real quick. Okay, say again. Okay, whenever you acknowledge and validate someone else's point of view, okay, then you're going to role model the way. When you role model the way, you want to make sure that you start with a fact first. You don't want to role model the way by saying, in Lottie's case, you really hurt my feelings because I never get to speak. And it's just, you want to start with a fact that cannot be argued. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And then if you want to say that later, to say I don't feel hurt and it makes me feel this way, then that's fine. But just make sure that you start with a fact first and emotion second. And then you want to challenge them by asking a question, but also making sure the question has to do with something that each of you has in common. Okay? Okay, awesome. So hopefully that makes sense. Here's the thing. You might have to go through this twice, so don't freak out if they're like, no, sorry, you're still not speaking third, right? So she can go through the whole thing again. If you go through it twice, you're still getting pushback, it's still a no-go, then you want to make sure to leave what's called a high goodbye standard, because influence doesn't always happen in one conversation. Okay, so you might want to, in Lottie's case, she had to do this once. She had to say, you know what, I really honor the last 15 minutes that you've spent talking about this with me and listening to me. I appreciate that. It seems like we're not seeing eye to eye. So let's circle back. And then in which case, she might have to go back, get some more facts, some more backup, bring someone else in with her, get an ally, what have you. But that's called a high goodbye standard. What you don't want to do is kind of be like, I don't want to see be like a 2-year-old, but you don't want to get upset and frustrated if you go through this 1 or 2 times and you don't get your way. It might happen over time. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, cool. Yes, yes, no? Okay. This topic, I've given workshops on this topic all day, just on influence. Okay, so I'm throwing the 3 most important facts at you right now, and you have this worksheet. I'll make sure that you get it. You can work through it. In summary, we talked about the clarity, basically 3 words in 1 person. If you don't think about anything else, just think about the 3 words that define your best self and 1 person that is going to fiercely believe in you. Confidence, take action, and become, that is not good English either, but what I meant was become emotionally agile. And then internal and external influence. If you don't remember everything that we just talked about by influence, which I would totally understand, start practicing acknowledging and validating with yourself and with others. So if you start getting worried about something, say, you know what, I'm feeling like this is making me a little nervous or fearful, and it's okay. Also, whether it's with your colleagues or your subordinates or your kids, start listening to people and acknowledging them, the good and the not so good. So, if anyone has teenage daughters, I would be like, you know, I noticed you slammed the door. That does not ever happen in my house, by the way, but I noticed that you slammed the door. I'm sensing a lot of emotion around that, and I get it. You've had a long day. So acknowledge and validate. That's the most important place to start with influence. All right, so thank you for staying to the end. We're right about the top of the hour. I want to take any more questions, but I also want to let you know if you do need to hop off right now, I want to make sure to show you this. So I'm opening up my calendar because I have given you a ton of information and I want to make it real. Like I said, I'm not selling any or doing any funny stuff on this webinar. I want to make this content real for you so you can gain the clarity and have a roadmap going into the new year. So I'm not selling, I am giving, I am what am I trying to say? Limiting this to 10 because there's only so many folks that I can talk to. I would love to talk to you. And in this 30 minutes, you will see a transformation. If you're thinking that, oh gosh, I need to get clear on what that next level of ambition is for me, I need, you know, I really want to get to that next level in my current position, or I want to pivot to something new. You want to get further clarity and start building out that roadmap, then grab a call. If you think that you have that clarity, but you need more confidence and you need to be more emotionally agile and high pressure, important conversations or taking action, then you want to schedule the call. And finally, if you want to learn how to structure an influential conversation, the science of influence, if you know me, I have a couple folks on here that I know that know me. You'll know that I am flat out obsessed, you know, with influence. I am licensed to coach it. I have studied Robert Cialdini's work. It is so, so important. So if you're not feeling like you have the impact that you want, deserve, and you want to get to that next level, you want to understand the science of influence and how to fit it into your life so you can be more influential for yourself, but also for others so you can speak up and be heard more, then schedule this appointment with me because we are going to take you from where you're at. We're going to get clear on what you need, and then we're going to help the train pull out of the station because, quite frankly, there's a next level for all of us. All of us. And I want to know what that next level is for you. Let's get clear on it, and then let's build the confidence, the emotional agility, and also the influence so you can really lay the groundwork to have an amazing 2020. So let me know. I'm going to stay on a few extra minutes if anyone has any questions. If you don't, just go ahead and go to SherylKline.com/discovery. I think we have about 4 more left right now. So I would really love to have a conversation with you. Awesome. I'm getting all sorts of thank yous. You're really welcome. I'm going to stay with you a couple more minutes if anyone wants me to clarify anything or if you have any questions. But, and it looks like we have, okay, 3, I think my assistants, okay, we have 3 sessions left. So go ahead, please, please, please book one of these. I want to talk to you before the end of the year. Okay, I want you to hit January running, okay? Okay, one more question. Okay, lots more thank yous. Okay, you're very welcome. Let me know any questions. I'm still here with you. I want to take you from where you're at, and I've witnessed a transformation in so many women that it is such an honor. It'd be an honor to talk to you. I want to talk to you if you want that next level of clarity, confidence, and influence to achieve what you want, deserve. I want to also honor you for spending an hour of your precious time with me here this morning. If you are Pacific time, and I guess early afternoon if you are in another time zone, here's to you being amazing. And I can't wait to continue the conversation. Thanks so much.